What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into Dog Talk with your host, Holden. Glad to be here with you guys. I know I took a little bit of time off this past week. I was celebrating 10 years being married to my wife this past week, so I did not get any kind of content out to you guys, and that's going to be okay because we all have lives to live outside of just every Saturday and every week that we have a game. Unfortunately, it just so happened to fall on a week that we had a very, very big matchup, a top 10 matchup, obviously between Georgia and Ole Miss. But nonetheless, I'm not going to apologize for that. And the only downfall to that, I guess, is the fact that we're about to have another bye week here. So there's not a lot of content that's going to be coming out after this either. So unfortunately, that's just kind of the way it fell. But nonetheless, glad to be back with you guys as we're going to kind of round up and recap this Ole Miss Georgia game. It's going to be a quicker episode and a little bit different, obviously, because generally what we do when we come in on a recap episode is we go back through all the news and notes that we had coming into it, and we look over them and see how things kind of compared and what we felt about them. But we didn't have that conversation leading into it, so we're basically just going to run through this football game and talk about it. We've got news, we've got notes, we've got injuries, we've got a lot of stuff to get to. So let's dive right into it. If you guys are listening, I greatly appreciate it. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube. The video side of this will be back, obviously, after we get back from the Florida game. So right now, it is just audio. We will get the video back, and I'll stop saying but it will no longer be a live call-in show. I will either do it video like I normally did in previous years, or it'll just be a video that I put out live. I might still do it live, but we're not going to do the call-in side of things anymore. That just got a little bit sideways there at the beginning. So anyways, let's kind of dive into some things real quick. First and foremost, on the news side of things, Florida head coach Billy Napier was fired on Sunday. I kind of had a feeling this was coming. Not really sure where it was coming. It's kind of funny that it happens right here at the bye week, but at the same time, I guess they want to buy the team or the interim a little bit of time to kind of be able to prepare as guys for Georgia coming up in the outdoor cocktail party that'll be happening in Jacksonville this year at 3:30 this Saturday, matter of fact. So those are a couple of things to kind of put in mind there. The only other side of things that I'm not 100% sure of as far as why it is that they did that, I don't know. I kind of speculate, just recruiting side of things, as well as the guys that you have on your team not being able to kind of dive into that portal. I'm sure that's a big part of that. So maybe that's another reason they did it now. Not 100% sure of that. Obviously, James Franklin up there at Penn State lost his job the week before. So jobs are beginning to open. Obviously, that means candidates that these teams or these schools are looking at or wanting, you kind of want to be ahead of the game there. So that'll be kind of interesting to see. I think we're going to have a pretty wild coaching carousel going on this year. Last year wasn't quite that wild, especially in the SEC. It was very quiet, but this year that's going to change. That's going to change a good bit. You have the potential of an FSU head coach being fired. You have the potential of, I wouldn't say necessarily during season, but potentially a Dabo at Clemson being fired after this season. You could also have, I'm not going to say that will happen, but I doubt that they would get rid of a Brian Kelly at LSU, but that could be on the table. I'm sure conversations have been happening there. Mark Stoops at Kentucky, who's been there forever, but eventually you got to get tired of it, and this is not a good year for Kentucky. Kentucky kind of lingering down there at the bottom of the SEC this year. Let's see, who else did we have on tap? Hugh Freeze there at Auburn. That seat's also red hot right now too. So a lot of hot seats in the SEC this year. We'll see what happens by the time we get to the end of it. But obviously, every week I've got a feeling we're going to have some news breaking about coaches all over the country making moves, making shifts. Because obviously, if a coach leaves the school that he's at now to fill one of these roles where a coach has been fired, that is obviously going to be leaving a hole where they were. So that'll be something we have to monitor too. Very interesting to see what's going to be coming down the pipe with that. Let's get to some injuries that we did have coming into the football game. We did get Ernest Green back, which was nice. Juwan Gaston also was there. Trying to think who were some of the others. Michael Morris. A couple of other guys that we did have in this game. It was nice to see an offensive line that is getting healthier, and we're able to move guys around left and right. And right now things seem to be clicking on the offensive line. We looked a lot better. We got a lot of push in this game, in the run game, which was nice to see. Unfortunately, we did know coming into it that Kyron Jones would be out. I believe he's going to be out for a while with a foot injury, ankle injury. I can't remember 100% what it was, but he's going to be out. I think the word was used as indefinitely. Never sounds good. Potentially, I mean, it could potentially be, nearing the end of the season if we see him back this year. And then, unfortunately, on the first drive of the game, Saturday, we also lost Colby Young due to a fractured leg or fractured ankle. Also, unfortunately, I got a feeling that's going to be the end of the season for him, and also potentially the end of a career in a Georgia uniform because of that. And that's unfortunate for him. I was looking for him to really have an explosive season, and he showed flashes of that potential this year, being one of Georgia's leading receivers. So that's tough. That's really, really tough, losing him in this game, and then obviously moving forward, him not being on the field, because he was a tall, fast guy. He was a good guy to have there as a wideout. So not having him for the rest of the season is going to be pretty tough. Hope that he could get back by the end, or if we get to a playoff time or SEC championship time, depending on what the rest of this season holds, that would be able, maybe, but I really don't know. Something tells me that's not quite the way it is, and some news may have broke, since I've let this episode out. So there's the potential you already know what has happened in that situation, and that news has broke since you've been listening to this. But let's dive into the game. Speaking of the game and the things that were happening, this was a wild football game. Georgia covers in a spread side of things. We kind of look at the numbers, not really big on the betting side of things, but we do at least look at the numbers just to kind of see what Vegas is thinking, because, again, sometimes they just seem to know what's going on. And apparently they did in this one. I know I've seen some lines that people picked it at 6.5, and I'm fairly certain it finished at 7.5, and this game ends 8 points. It's 43-35. So there again, somehow they know. But for Georgia to cover the spread in that one was pretty impressive, because, again, Georgia not necessarily known to be a spread covering team over the last couple of years. But huge, high scoring game, 43-35. It's never been something I would have thought we would have had to worry about, especially after that 2021 season, and how just, I mean, what kind of an adjective can you throw here? You can put a lot, but just a death-eating, chainsaw-wrecking defense that you could not do anything to in 2021 of Georgia. Some that people are still comparing teams this year to that team from 2021, a la losing on here, Ohio State this year. They are making those comparisons, and Ohio State even this year is still not as good as that defense was back in that 2021 season, which is huge to say. But nonetheless, that's not something that I would have thought we would have to worry about any season under Kirby Smart. But this is a year where I don't know if it's necessarily a worry as much as it's just we've grown accustomed to it already through these 7 games so far through the season. Is Georgia's defense is not what it used to be. It's really not. This year is not. Now, we're young. We're young on both sides of the football, which is a really good thing, because that means in the years to come, in a year, 2 years to come, barring just a outflow of people trying to lead the team. And that's the tough thing with NIL. That's the tough thing with the transfer portal, is a lot of these guys can leave, go where they want, but you also get to pick up guys and pieces here and there. But if these guys would stick around, that means in a year or two you could have a very special defense once again. But this year, not trying to bash on the defense, but the defense is not what we are accustomed as Georgia fans to seeing over the last couple of years. And to be honest with you, the cardiac dog has kind of stuck. It's one of those, we know that, hey, the first half, Georgia's going to give up some points. And we may or may not score some points. We're going to see. And then we get into the second half, and generally it seems like Georgia has kind of slowed teams down, even in a couple of games, completely stopped teams altogether. And offensively, we picked things up. The good thing in this game was, offensively, we were clicking on all cylinders the entire game. So that was great to see. Bobo was in his bag. I'm sure you've seen the tweets. I'm sure you've seen the post on all of that, because he called an exceptional game, because Brett Thorson never saw the field. He never saw the field. We did not punt the ball one time in this football game, which was huge. And if that happens in a football game, you're either turning the ball over a lot, you're going for it on 4th down in critical situations, trying to get back in a football game, or you've done what Georgia did in this one and you just scored every drive, whether it was a field goal of a Peyton Woodring, which we'll talk about when we get into it, or you're scoring the touchdowns, obviously. So it was a beautiful thing to see. Georgia's offense was clicking. Defense, again, we gave up some points in that first half, gave up some there in the second half too. But then the fourth quarter, it was all over. The strangle had begun, and it was the fourth quarter where Georgia outscores Ole Miss 17-0, and that was the difference in the football game right there. That fourth quarter changed everything in this game, and those last two drives, the only punts of the football game coming from Ole Miss, the last two drives being the absolute strangle that Georgia put on a team, and it was beautiful to see. The crowd was loud. It was awesome. It was fantastic. But what a football game. What a football game. Again, Georgia on top of this one, 43-35. This is how we ran down the line. I'm going to run down the line and show you just back and forth how this game went. And then we'll dive into some of the numbers and look at some of the statistics for team and individual side of things. We start things off. We drive 8 plays, 42 yards, and almost 4 minutes of this football game. Peyton Woodring starts the game off with a 51-yarder to put us up 3-0. They turn around, they drive it on 14 plays, 65 yards, 5 minutes, 18 seconds, and they get a touchdown. This is something I've noticed this season. I don't know what the deal is with it, but every time it seems like a team plays us, it seems like 14 plays is what it's going to take for them to get down the field and score on us in the first drive. And we saw it multiple times, I think, against Alabama. We saw it again in this game against Ole Miss. I think even Tennessee might have been one of the other ones, but I think Auburn could have even been one of those the week before too, but something about 14 plays and you're going to score on Georgia. That's what it takes, though. It takes 14 plays to get there. And it takes a couple of conversions of third downs because we didn't do that very effectively to start this game either. We get the ball back. We drive down 13 plays ourselves, 75 yards, 5:51, and we score to start the second quarter, making us 9-7. They get the ball back. They go 10 plays, 65 yards. They also get a touchdown, 14-10. So, again, we're back and forth. Then Gunnar Stockton rushes it for 22 yards after 8 plays, 75 yards there for us, and we take the lead back, 17-14. Things are looking good. We're doing good. We're halfway through the second quarter here. And then Ole Miss gets another touchdown out of 21-17. So, we're trying to get back in this game right here at the end of the half. Basically, we kick another field goal. Peyton Woodring for 35 yards, making it 21-20 going to the half. Things are looking good. We're only down by 1 point. We're doing good. They get the ball out of the half. We're hoping, all right, let's put that strangle that we know that Georgia has had on the field. We're not tackling well in the first half. That's why they're scoring. Let's stop that immediately. No, we're just kidding. 2 plays, 75 yards on a 75-yard touchdown pass from that of a Trinidad Chambliss, making it 28-20 right out of the half. I'm talking about we came right out and they immediately scored within 14 seconds of coming out of the half. So the tackling thing, we didn't get the memo. Then we turned right back around. Not necessarily a pun here, but Lawson Lucky was the one with the catch there. And he had himself a day, making it 26-8. We go for 2. We don't get it there. No problem. We're still down by 2, but we're going to make this thing happen. Then they drive a right down, 12 plays, 75 yards, score, making it 35-26 late in the third quarter. Georgia gets the ball back. They drive 13 plays, 75 yards in 6 minutes, 16 seconds. And at this point, we're down by 2, but scoring a touchdown there, making it 35-33, and here's where the stopping happened. We get our first stop finally. They have to punt to us. Georgia drives down the field, scores again with Lawson Lucky on a 7-yard touchdown pass from Gunnar Stockton, making it 40-35. The Dogs are up on 9 plays, 67 yards, 5 minutes, 8 seconds. And then we have the Kirby Death March after we stop them. And what happens? We drive down the field. 10 plays, 66 yards, 4 minutes, 27 seconds with 2 minutes and 9 seconds left in the football game. Georgia has an opportunity. It's 4th and 1, 4th and 2, I believe. And all I could think in my head was the Alabama game. Even though we could have kicked the field goal to tie it, this was one, hey, kick the field goal. Kick the field goal. We're up 8. We don't have to worry about them driving down, scoring a touchdown, and we lose this football game because we didn't take the points that were right there in front of us. And we took the points. We go up by 8. We're up 43-35, and we get the stop of the century there at the end of the game, batting the ball down a couple of times on the last couple of drives there for Ole Miss, putting this game away 43-35 on their 4th down try. It was a thing of beauty. And we'll kind of dive into some of the stats quarter by quarter too, because what it was that Ole Miss did in the 4th quarter in comparison to what Georgia did in the 4th quarter, pretty unbelievable. Pretty unbelievable, to be honest with you. Let's look at things team-wise to start, and then we'll dive into some things individually. In this game, Georgia had 34 first downs to Ole Miss's 21, 14 by which came through the air, or excuse me, 14 of which came by the ground for Georgia, 6 for Ole Miss there, 17 through the air for Georgia, 13 through the air for Ole Miss, 3 by penalty and 2 by penalty for Ole Miss. Georgia rushed the ball for 221 yards in this game, 49 attempts, whereas they rushed it for 88 yards on 24 attempts. We averaged 4.5 yards per rush. They averaged 3.7. They had 4 rushing touchdowns, though. So you see the numbers there. Pretty strange looking, 88 yards, but 4 touchdowns. That's because when they got in close, that's where their running was a factor in this game. They scored 4 of their touchdowns just by way of the ground. Just like that, Georgia, again, only 1. And then through the air, Georgia also outgained Ole Miss in this one, 289 to 263. That was on 26 for 31 pass attempts for Georgia, and that was 19 of 36 there for Ole Miss. We were averaging 9.3 yards through the air, whereas they were averaging 7.3. 4 touchdowns through the air for us, 1 through the air for them. So we were completely inverse on the ground and through the air. The field goals made the biggest difference in this one. The total offensive yards, Georgia absolutely dominating in this game, 510 yards compared to that of 351 for Ole Miss. 80 plays ran by Georgia, 60 there for Ole Miss. Georgia averaging 6.4 yards per play, whereas Ole Miss was averaging 5.8. We both fumbled the ball, but we both fell on it. There were 3 penalties for Georgia, 37 yards, 4 penalties for that of Ole Miss. Again, Georgia didn't punt the ball at all. There were 2 punts there for Ole Miss, both of which came right there in the fourth quarter. Try to see if there was anything else fun. Let's see. Time of possession is always a fun one to look at. Georgia had the ball 37 minutes, 36 seconds in this game compared to 22-21 there for Ole Miss. Georgia had it most in the first quarter. This number is about to get crazy here in just a minute. 9 minutes, 42 seconds in the first quarter. Ole Miss 5 minutes, 18 seconds. Then Ole Miss leads it in the second quarter with 9 minutes and 6 seconds. Georgia at 5:54. Georgia then in the third quarter leads at 8 minutes, 56 seconds to that of 6 minutes, 4 seconds. Then we get to the fourth quarter. Things get pretty wild here. Georgia had the ball 13 minutes and 4 seconds in the fourth quarter. 13 minutes and 4 seconds. If you're counting, there's only 15 minutes in a quarter. So that's pretty impressive considering Ole Miss only had a minute and 53 seconds. But you're going to see the yardage in a minute. You're going to see the first downs. You're going to see the numbers here in just a second when we dive through quarter by quarter. Georgia in this game was 6 of 11 on third downs offensively. Not real pretty. Not quite that. Well, I guess it is technically over 50% in this, but wasn't looking all that great all the time. Ole Miss started strong in this one, but they end up finishing 5 of 9. They go 1 of 2 on fourth downs. We go 1 of 1 in the red zone. Both of us were 100%. They were 4 for 4. All 4 of theirs coming in touchdown form. We were 5 for 5, 4 of which were touchdowns, 1 of which was a field goal in the red zone again. They had 1 sack. We had no sacks on the day. No sacks. All of us made our points after. And then obviously, again, Peyton Woodring with the 3 field goals on the night. It was beautiful. Gunnar Stockton, this is how he lined up. 21 for 26, 289, 4 touchdowns on the day. What a ball game. His long in this game was 36 yards, and that went to Colby Young on that first drive of the game on the little flea flicker where he would end up being injured and out for the rest of the game. Again, prayers up there to Colby Young. But Gunnar Stockton, absolutely unbelievable in this game. He also rushed it for 59 yards, had a touchdown on the ground in this game also. So he was looking really good. Then you had Nate Frazier leading the charge on the ground, 72 yards. Chauncey Bowens, he also had 61 yards in this game. Dylan Bell had 19 yards. Josh McCray had 13 yards in this game as well. Cash Jones with a couple of touches, no totalage on his yardage because of those touches, one of which he got a couple, then the other he did not. Then we get to the receiving category. Zachariah Branch leads the charge for the Dogs in this one, 8 touches, 71 yards. Dylan Bell right behind him, 2 touches, 57 yards. Lawson Lucky, 5 touches for 43. Oscar Delt, 4 touches for 42. Talk about getting talk about getting your tight ends involved here. Lawson Lucky with the 3 touchdowns in this game on those touches. We talked about Colby Young there. London Humphreys had 2 catches for 20. Chauncey Bowens had 2 for 16. Nate Frazier also had 2 for 4 and a touchdown in this one as well. Noah Thomas did not have any catches in this game. Peyton Woodring's kicks from 51, 35, and 42 were all good as well. On the defensive side of things, C.J. Allen leading the charge there. I mean, he was all over the field the whole night. 10 total tackles, 6 for Janelle Aguero, 4 for Chris Cole and Ja'Cory Thomas, 3 for, half the rest of the defense. KJ Bolden, Dalen Everett, DeMelo Jones, Justin Williams, Quintavious Johnson. Then Raylan and Xavier McLeod, they both had 2. Gabe Harris and Kristen Miller also had tackles in this one. You had a couple of pass breakups there for DeMelo Jones, 1 for Dalen Everett, 1 for Xavier McLeod, and also 1 for Josh Horton in this game. So some good breakups there also happening, which was beautiful. I want to look at things real quick, just quarter by quarter, and show you some pretty astounding numbers, honestly. In this one, Georgia in the first quarter, let's start at the first quarter here. We're going to start with Georgia. Georgia in the first quarter had 7 first downs, 33 rushing yards, 74 passing yards. We were 7 for 9 through the air, averaging right at 6 yards per pass. On third downs, we were pretty efficient there in the first quarter, 2 for 3, doing pretty good there. Didn't go for it on fourth at all. Then we get to the second quarter. We had 8 first downs, and that was 64 yards on the ground, 80 through the air. So looking really good in that one, 7 for 9 through the air. Again, Gunner absolutely clicking, 7.2 yards per pass. We were 4 for 5 on third down. So really, when you look at that right there, offensively, we were pretty efficient through the first half, going 6 for 8 there on third down. So that was nice to see. Then third quarter, 9 first downs in the third quarter, 52 yards on the ground, 64 through the air. Gunner, a perfect 6 for 6. This is a number to remember. He was almost 7 yards per pass on that one. We were 0 for 1 on third downs, but we did get the fourth down following that to keep the drive alive. Then the fourth quarter was a big one, 10 first downs, 72 yards on the ground, 71 through the air. Gunner, a perfect 6 for 6 in that one, also throwing 5.72 yards per pass. 0 for 2 on third downs. We kind of got stalled out there, one of which ends up being the kick that puts us up 8 there. So we had 34. We talked about those numbers. But the second half in this game, first half, Gunner is 14 for 19 passing, and then the second half he's a perfect 12 for 12 in that quarter. Unbelievable, to be honest with you. And then he's also, 135 yards in the second half alone, and on that perfect 12 for 12. Beautiful thing to see there in the second half. I mean, he was, again, just clicking on all cylinders. Things look great offensively on all sides of things. But let's look at things defensively. How did Georgia line up against Ole Miss? Ole Miss had 5 first downs in the first quarter, 17 yards on the ground, 48 through the air. They were 6 for 9 through the air, averaging almost 5, or just under 5, actually, 6.5 yards per play. 3 for 3 on third downs. This is, again, where our defense just first half, have your way with us, because that's where you're going to have to get us, especially in third downs, and they did that in this one. First downs in the second quarter, they had 29 yards, of which came on the ground, 89 through the air. Trinidad Chambliss was 8 of 11 in this one. They were 2 for 2 on third down efficiencies, though. They were 5 for 5 in the first half. Here's an impressive number for you here. They were 5 for 5 in the first half of this game on third downs. They would be 0 for 4 for the rest of the game and 1 for 2 on fourth downs for the rest of the game. In the third quarter, 5 first downs for them, 30 yards on the ground, 125 yards through the air with that big explosive 75-yarder coming right out of the half. That's where the biggest number kind of changed in this game. If you take that big 75-yarder out of, I'm not saying they don't necessarily drive down the field and get that yardage anyway by way of ground and air, but these numbers probably change a little bit. 4 for 6 through the air for them, again, averaging that over 11 yards per play. And again, that was because of that huge explosive play there. Then in the fourth quarter, here's the astounding number for you. They got a total of 1 first down in that fourth quarter. 1. And I'm pretty sure that might have been to start it, and that was it. They would rush it for 12 yards. They would pass it for 1. They were 1 for 10 through the air, averaging 1.18 yards per play. They were 0 for 3 again on third downs, 0 for 1 on fourth down. So Georgia absolutely elite in that fourth quarter as far as defensively goes, and then offensively we were clicking on all cylinders. So second half, Georgia is a team that you do not want to play, and it was a beautiful thing to see in this game. Again, glad we took the points when they were there as far as kicking the field goal to go up 8 and go ahead and try to kind of get out of this ball game and at least have that lead where you don't have to worry about getting beat because you decided not to take the points. Because you take them, they got to go for 2 to even tie it anyway. So do that. Glad we got to see that, and it was smart to have happened. You don't need me to say that, but beautiful thing. Hey, again, huge win, Georgia. At home. Again, that streak, we're going to start it back over. We're going to keep things going in a couple games back at home now, back under our belts. And outside of Alabama and outside of a lot of other teams, Georgia's only lost one game at home over the last, 35? So not too shabby, to be honest. It might be 36. I might have that number wrong. But still, it's still hard to play there. And it was loud. And it was a beautiful game. The striping of the field, it was nice there by row 60. Saw that when it came out, obviously, beforehand, and retweeted that one. Saw plenty of people fussing about, again, it always kind of cracks me up just how much us as a fan base, how much we care about clothes. It really does, just because it's clothes. Who cares? Who cares what you wear, honestly? And who cares what the players wear either? Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see us run out in black one time because I think that would be awesome. And by no means do I think the color jersey that you wear indicates what it is that's about to happen on the field. Again, that's all for fanfare, and it's awesome. And the Dogs get the big win in this one, 43-35. Beautiful to see. Glad to see it. Dogs keep things rolling. They are 6-1. They are third in the SEC right now, behind that of a Texas A&M and an Alabama. So Georgia looking to continue working their way towards that position, trying to get into the SEC championship again, vying for that position to be in a college football playoff again as well. We've still got a lot of season left in front of us. We got the bye week this week. We're going to be heading into Jacksonville after that. Then obviously we still got Mississippi State on the road. We've still got Texas coming to us. We've got to go to Georgia Tech at one point, and then I think we've got Charlotte later in the season too. So still a lot of football to be played. A lot of things can happen between now and then. But I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of this season kind of plays out. Excited for it. Been glad that the season's been here. It's been awesome. It's been busy. But that's all part of it, right? That's all part of it. Dogs on top of this one. Glad to see them be on top of it. Let's take a look at some of the other games that did happen around the country. Starting in on that Friday night game, because what on earth? First of all, who in the world even knew that there were these big matchups that were happening on Friday night? Because I'll be honest with you, it wasn't until I was on the way home from a high school football game that I got the notification that was like, see if Louisville can hold off number 2 Miami. And I was like, what? First of all, why are they playing on Friday? And second of all, are they actually playing on Friday? And sure enough, they were. Louisville upsetting number 2 Miami 24-21. Everybody's going to talk about it. They've already talked about it. Carson Beck in this game, 25 for 35. Only 10 incompletions, but 4 of those went to the other team. 4 interceptions in this one, 271 yards as Miami falls to Louisville at home. Kind of tough there. Another top 25 loss here. Minnesota winning at home against number 25 Nebraska, 24-6. Both those on a Friday night. Things in the ACC and obviously there in the Big Ten also get interesting when you play on Friday nights. Then we get to the Saturday slate. Ohio State over Wisconsin, 34-0. Indiana continuing their drive, 38-13 over Michigan State. Texas A&M, Arkansas, always a funky game. I don't know why it is, but it's always a strange game. I know there was some funky weather over that way too in Arkansas when this game was going on. I'm surprised it didn't affect it, but A&M does hold on to win 45-42. Alabama, Tennessee, this was a big one, obviously, too. That pick six there before the half really made the difference in this game. 37-20, Bama on top of that one. Texas Tech losing for the first time this season to an Arizona State team who's now 5-2. That makes it 26-22. Arizona State with the upset of the number 7 team in the country. Oregon holds off Rutgers pretty easily, 56-10. Big game of the weekend in the SEC. Number 17 Vandy hosting number 10 LSU, and they put them out 31-24. Vandy on an absolute roll. They're in the top 10 for the first time since like 1941. What a cool thing to see in this game. Vandy keeping things rolling, 6-1 on the season. Another team undefeated on the season is also number 12, Georgia Tech, which we'll get to the AP poll here in just a minute because I did forget about that off the top. But they beat Duke 27-18. Notre Dame does hold off USC 34-24 in the top 25 matchup. Number 14, Oklahoma over South Carolina 26-7. BYU taking Utah down 24-21. Missouri beats Auburn 23-17 at Auburn at night. Virginia beating Washington State 22-20. Texas slipping by Kentucky 16-13, but hey, we get it. We've all been on the road and had to play at Kentucky at random times, and things get a little bit interesting in this one. One of the interesting stats, just seeing here off the top, was Cutter Bowley 31 for 39, 258 yards. No touchdowns, does have one interception. So that one of his incompletions, one of his only 8 in almost 40 passes in this game was to the other team. So basically seven incompletions outside of that interception. So very strange to see there. But Texas holding on by a field goal to win that one. UAB upsets number 22 Miami at the time. Memphis, they were undefeated at the time. 31-24 at UAB. That was kind of cool. Cincinnati over Oklahoma State, 49-17. And I did obviously see, too, that Clemson had lost, so I do want to go back and see if I can find where that final score was, but I got to look at a different page here because they're not in the top 25, and most of all that it shows, first and foremost, is going to be the top 25. Michigan beats Washington, but who cares, you know? Houston over Arizona. TCU does beat Baylor. And why is Navy not ranked? Yeah, Northwestern. Keep it going, man. 19-0 over Purdue. Troy with the win over UL Monroe, 37-14. SMU, there it is, over Clemson, 35-24. Clemson now falls to 3-4 on the season. It's going to be a fight just to get to a bowl game right there. That's interesting. It's just interesting, to say the least. Just interesting. North Texas gets back on the hop there. Oh, yeah, Florida beats Mississippi State, if you cared, 23-21, but again, didn't save Billy Napier's job. Penn State loses again, 25-24 without James Franklin, so it didn't matter. They fall to 3-4 on the season. What a fall from grace. UCLA, 3-0. 3-0 under the new coach. Isn't that crazy? 20-17 over Maryland. Southern over Georgia State, 41-24. Pitt over Syracuse, 30-13. Florida State also falling again on the season to Stanford, 20-13. They're now 3-4 in the season, 0-4 in the ACC. Haven't won an ACC game in 2 years. Kind of crazy. To be honest with you. We've got some pretty good games that will be going on this weekend that we'll kind of keep an eye on, but obviously not really going to be much of a conversation that we're going to have outside of it, because I'm not terribly worried about it, because again, I'm not going to be here to talk to you guys about it. Well, I guess previewing it Thursday. I probably won't talk to you guys on Sunday either, just because there's nothing to talk about. There's not going to be a game to recap. More than likely, you guys won't hear from me until next Thursday when we'll do that live show there. But the AP poll, this is how it lined up coming into this week. Ohio State at the top, Indiana right behind them at 2, Texas A&M at 3, Alabama at 4, Georgia jumping up to number 5, Oregon at 6, Georgia Tech at 7. That's going to be a big game at the end of the year this year. Ole Miss falling down to 8, Miami down to 9. Vandy up again to the top 10 in 10 spot. BYU at 11, Notre Dame at 12, Oklahoma 13. Texas Tech falls to 14 after their first loss. Missouri up to 15, Virginia up to 16, Tennessee falling down to 17th. South Florida at 18, Louisville 19, LSU down to 20. Tried to tell y'all they were a little overrated. Cincinnati 21, Texas falls down to 22, Illinois at 23, Arizona State 24, and Michigan at 25. The only two teams that I could tell you guys for sure was LSU, and they will prove it eventually, and they have done that now. They are down at 20 where they belong. And then the other one that I said I will not believe until it happens is that of a Penn State, and they don't either. They don't exist at all. Ohio State will play Penn State this week, so that will be that'll be something to see anyway. Something interesting. Indiana against UCLA. UCLA's hot right now. Texas A&M, LSU always ends up being an interesting game. So there are some pretty good matchups there in the top 3 alone, even if some of the teams that they're playing don't necessarily look that way. So it's going to wrap us up here. We're going to get out of here. And like I said, I hope you guys enjoy the bye week and get to enjoy some football without having to stress over the cardiac dogs this week. But I will check back in with you guys when we get ready to prepare for the greatest outdoor cocktail party. Why does that feel like that wasn't right? Anyway, we'll check in with you guys when we get ready for the Georgia-Florida game. Go Dogs.